let's bring in Lisa Evers here. We're learning right now, Lisa, that apparently bond has been denied.
Okay, that's
well, I don't know if that's getting it. Let's use this one.
Let's get Jeremy here.
Yeah, Jeremy, can you come back in here when you get a moment? So what we had been positioned for was an argument that because the jury found Sean Diddy Combs guilty only on the lesser of the charges, that there was a presumption that he might be able to go home. The judge even asked him at one point, I imagine you don't want to go back to MDC. He nodded vigorously. Right? Let's use this microphone. I'm not sure if that one works. And Jeremy, if you'll come in here
Jeremy.
too. Should we start with Jeremy's reaction?
Jeremy Salland is with us. He's a criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan prosecutor. And the bail, the news is that bail has been denied.
Yeah, that the judge.
So there is the law, the statute says in substance that bail would be denied, meaning that he goes and stays in. There's not an exception. For example, there could be an exception where the prosecution says we consent, and there's other pieces to it as well. There could be a danger to somebody or not, but the bail being kept as it is not necessarily atypical because of the law, though one would believe the fact that he was not convicted of the top charge, and it's been a reduction in people do walk free and come back and ROR.
Well, keeping the bail as it is means there's no bail.
Right. So he's remanded, he's held without bail. So this doesn't change the potential sentence, obviously, because it's still up to 10 years, but for the immediate gratification purposes of getting out, doing what he needs to do and fighting this from the outside in terms of preparing for that sentencing, now it's been stripped.
And let me just add, this morning the prosecution was very adamant about wanting to have this extra time to present their argument to the judge, and seemed obviously they were disappointed with the verdict. It was very visible and very obvious, but they wanted to keep him behind bars, and they said, Your Honor, we need several hours to really get this whole argument together for you, and that's pretty stunning.
But again, I think you have to go back to what the law is and what it allows for, and generally speaking, barring some exception, the Bail Reform Act says you're staying, you're not just getting released.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a huge update on the ongoing Diddy trial that's shaking the entertainment world. You won't believe what just happened. Diddy has been released from prison. But that's not all there's. A bombshell revelation that could change everything we thought we knew about this case. Before we dive into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the latest breaking news on high-profile celebrity cases. Now, let's get right into it. So, here's the big update. Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul, business tycoon, and entertainment powerhouse, has just been released from prison. This comes after weeks of legal battles, media frenzy, and a courtroom filled with drama. Now, what does this mean? Why was he in prison in the first place? And what does this release mean for the trial moving forward? For those of you who might be out of the loop, let's quickly rewind. The Diddy trial started after serious accusations were leveled against him. We're talking about everything from allegations of abuse to shady business dealings. The case has been making waves for months now, with some insiders claiming it's one of the most high-profile celebrity trials in recent memory. But things took a turn when key members of Diddy's defense team started dropping bombs.
He was convicted of a crime. I think people, rightfully so, are disappointed and have questions from the public's perspective when you have such a horrific allegation that is not proven or substantiated beyond a reasonable doubt, and summarily, we're not talking about on the cusp. That's a pretty quick verdict that I think fooled many people, thinking that there might have been a sex trafficking conviction. He's walking scot-free in terms of any allegation of coercion, force, fraud, violence, but he's still in custody.
Okay, so Jeremy, can we just ask Jeremy, was it a difficult decision for the judge legally?
I think the judge is, no, I think the judge is not finding any exception in following the law, and that's why he's staying there. The hope from the prosecution, though they didn't, the defense, though they didn't raise it specifically in their letter to the court, was that, yes, there may be the Bail Reform Act, and that was what the prosecution relied on, said statutorily, you can't just let him walk. The prosecution was hoping, the defense was hoping that the judge would look past that and say, he's returned, he just shows that he can follow the court order, he's not going to flee, and he's not a danger to anyone specifically or the community at large.
And then let me ask you this, in terms of the appealing this decision, what's the process now that the defense will have to go through in order to appeal the judge's decision of no bail?
I would expect that he's not going anywhere anytime soon, appeal or not. I think that they're going to follow the judge. You know, I haven't heard what the judge said, so it's hard for me to just speak on an island here, but based on the law as we know it, I think the judge has ample ground to stand on and make this decision.
Let me answer that. Our Sharon Crowley has been watching this and telling us right now the judge says that the government was correct that the detention is mandatory for a Mann Act conviction, what you're indicating, and the judge said that the limited exception to mandatory detention was not met. Sean Combs pointed to his duties as a father and a son, which we talked about, but that does not rise to the level of an appropriate exception, according to the judge.
Might remember hearing about a bombshell leak that exposed even more shocking details. And now, with his release from prison, people are asking, is this the beginning of the end for Diddy's legal troubles? Here's where it gets even juicier. Reports say that Diddy's release came after an explosive new development in the trial. Someone close to Diddy's defense team reportedly dropped a bombshell that could completely flip the narrative. We're talking about a shocking new piece of evidence, a revelation that could change the course of the trial entirely. Could this be the beginning of Diddy's comeback, or is this just the calm before a bigger storm? To understand why this is such a huge deal, let's take a quick look at the timeline. It all started when Diddy was taken into custody. From there, the trial quickly gained attention, and a series of bombshells were dropped both in the courtroom and in the media. Legal experts were predicting a drawn-out battle, with twists and turns we couldn't have anticipated. But then, boom, out of nowhere Diddy's legal team pulls off an unexpected move that secures his release.
And to my point moments ago, that's what the law is. But we like to think that from the outside looking in, when someone has been charged with such egregious and horrible acts and a jury of your peers says no so quickly, there should be a means to say you should be free. But there still is a conviction. The Mann Act qualifies. He's in custody. Whether that's a sign of the judge saying I'm going to harshly sentence him or not, we can't say. But let's not read into it. The judge is simply following the law, and this warrant does not warrant that 10 years that you're hearing about for each of the counts for Jane and
then, Jeremy, remind us again about the Mann Act.
So the Mann Act does not involve coercion or force or anything like that. The Mann Act simply says that if you're bringing someone across state lines in substance, engaging in prostitution, that violates the law. I look at this case, not to really go too far off, this really, especially when you hear this verdict, should likely never have been in that courthouse. If anything, it should have been in that courthouse, meaning 100 Center Street or something similar, in a state courthouse for domestic violence, for abuse, for things that physical abuse and assaultive behavior, those types of things. But now we're here. It is what it is. But I think the prosecution really got humbled whether or not the judge is keeping Sean Combs in.
No, 100%. So now tonight he'll be spending the night in MDC.
Details surrounding his release are still a bit fuzzy, but insiders have hinted that a key piece of evidence led to this breakthrough. Some say it's a game-changer. Now, let's talk about the reactions. Diddy's release has not only taken the media by storm, but it's also been met with a massive outpouring of reactions from fellow celebrities and influencers. Some are celebrating his release, while others are calling it a strategic move designed to change the public narrative. We've seen some powerful reactions from people in the entertainment industry. Big names like Jay-Z and Drake have been following the trial closely, with both showing support for Diddy in different ways. But not everyone is so quick to jump to his defense. Some have been questioning whether this release is part of a larger legal strategy. The public sentiment is also split right down the middle. On one hand, you've got Diddy's loyal fan base who are thrilled to see him out and ready to fight for his freedom. These fans are cheering him on, claiming that Diddy has been wrongfully accused, and that this trial is just another example of the system being rigged against powerful black men. On the other hand, you've got critics, many of whom feel that this is just the latest in a series of celebrity scandals. These critics argue that while Diddy may have been released from prison, it doesn't change the fact that the accusations against him are serious and cannot be ignored. It's a classic, in case of innocent until proven guilty. But will the truth ever come out? Now let's talk about what's next.
It's hotter in there than it is out here, certainly for him, but there is now a horizon. That sun is rising for him. There is an out, and I'd like to think, based on the evidence and based on the finding of that jury, that out will be reasonable. And the defense said maybe 20 to 24 months. The prosecution is saying at least 50 to 60 months, even more. Where the judge falls, I don't know. But there's freedom for a guy who's looking at life in prison, which is unbelievable, whether he's in jail tonight or not.
And you told us that there's no minimum with the conviction, the prostitution conviction.
Correct, but there are guidelines, and the judges generally follow those guidelines. There's ability to move along them and go up or down. But I think we have to look at what the evidence is and remember that the prosecution can still bring out in sentencing, though you could not do that in a state court, all of these other allegations and the evidence there that was not supported by the jurors who said not guilty, because it's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's sentencing. It's not the same standard.
Right.
But do I think he's going to get 10 years? We've been wrong before. No, I do not. There is an out for him.
All right. And we'll continue watching this closely. And so that's it.
Diddy's release, the trial is far from over. In fact, some experts believe that this release could be part of a bigger legal strategy. Diddy's team might be planning a counterattack using this bombshell revelation to dismantle the case against him. But it's not all smooth sailing. Diddy still faces a series of legal hurdles, and his defense team will need to come up with something big to win this case. The next few weeks will be crucial, and we'll be keeping a close eye on every twist and turn. So, what do you think? Is Diddy's release a sign of victory, or is there something more sinister at play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the bombshell will change everything, or is this just the beginning of an even bigger storm? And hey, if you're loving the content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss any updates as this trial unfolds. Trust me, it's only going to get crazier from here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates on the Diddy trial, and make sure to stay informed. Catch you later.
That's it for now. That's it for today.
Yeah, just to sum up, this has been a day of news on the Sean Diddy Combs case. First, the jury came back and rendered a not guilty verdict on the heavier charges of the indictment. And then there was this talk about whether or not he would be walking out of here. There were a lot of reasons why some people thought that that might actually be the case. But at this point, we've just learned that the judge has denied the application for bail, which means instead of walking out a free man today, Sean Combs will have to wait. And the judge noted, we're told right now by Sharon Crowley, that one of the incidents of violence against a former girlfriend was in June of 2024, after Sean Combs knew that he perhaps was
under federal
illegal.
surveillance.
Right. So there are things in the bag, so to speak, that the judge is taking into consideration, that as people out on the street, maybe we were slower to get to, but the judge has made his decision. Sean Combs will not be seen on camera outside the courthouse today, at least not as a somewhat free man on bail. That's the latest from here at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. We go back to you guys.
We're hearing from our affiliates who were inside that courtroom that Sean Diddy Combs put his hands together in a prayer motion, looked at the jury and said, thank you, before falling to his knees. His family were in the courtroom. There was applause, cheering as well as his mother left the court. She blew kisses to supporters that have been waiting outside. Now, as you mentioned, the verdict is in and it is split on that most serious charge, one count of racketeering and conspiracy. He was found not guilty. That was the charge that would have carried life in prison. He was found not guilty of sex trafficking and also of those 2 counts, but he was found guilty on those 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, those charges do still carry 10 years, a maximum of 10 years behind bars, so he could still be facing up to 20 years in prison. Now, even with that guilty verdict, this is a legal victory for Sean Diddy Combs. He has been acquitted of the most serious charges against him. His defence had argued that, yes, there was domestic violence, yes, there was drug use, alcohol use, but that he should not be judged for his sexual preferences, that it was all consensual. Now, the star witness in this case was Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend. Her lawyer spoke briefly outside the courtroom.
The reaction is that we're pleased that he's finally been held responsible for 2 federal crimes, something that he's never faced in his life. We're hopeful that ultimately he receives a substantial sentence for what he's done, and we're pleased that Cassie's brought to light everything that has happened in this trial.
So as mentioned, he is still facing up to 20 years in prison. A judge will hand down that sentence. A date has not been set yet. Sean Diddy Combs remains in custody at the moment, but look, he could walk out in a matter of hours. There is a bail hearing set for later today, and we'll bring you those updates when we have them, Eddie.